Definition and History of Photography by Alejandro Ferri. The objectives: first is to define photography, and second, to discuss milestones in history of photography. The word photography literally means drawing with light. The word was supposedly first coined by the British scientist Sir Johann Herschel in 1839 from the Greek words phos and graphene. Phos means light and graphene means drawing or writing. The technology which led to the invention of photography essentially combines two distinct sciences: optics, the convergence of light rays to form an image inside a camera, and chemistry, to enable that image to be captured and recorded permanently into a photosensitive light-sensitive surface. Photography is the art, profession, or method of producing photographs, or scenes and films. That is according to Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English. In addition, the Macmillan Dictionary defines photography as the skill, job, or process of taking photographs or using a camera to record scenes or events for movie or television program. Digital photography is defined as the photographic method that stores the image digitally for later reproduction. Wikipedia defines digital photography as the art and science of producing and manipulating digital photographs. Photographs that are represented as bitmaps. Digital photographs can be produced directly with the digital camera, by capturing a frame from video or by scanning a conventional photograph. Photography can have many uses. Photographs can be used to record scenes or events. They can also be used to create visual documents for future study or research. Forensic evidence can be used on passports, ID cards, and for other administrative purposes. Photographs can also be used to document news articles or can be taken for record keeping, for insurance purposes, as souvenirs, and for many other uses. The early beginnings of photography. The invention of the pinhole camera or the camera obscura by Alhazen. The first casual reference to optic laws that made pinhole cameras possible, which is related to Aristotle to question why the sun can make circle images in square holes. Johann Heinrich Gauss, a German professor of anatomy interested in chemistry, who was certainly the first to establish that light reacts on silver salt and thus opened the way to photography. He mixed chalk, nitric acid, and silver in a flask, notices darkening on the side of a flask exposed to sunlight, accidental creation of the first photosensitive compound. (1800s) in photography. In the 1800s, Thomas Wedgwood created the sun pictures by placing opaque objects on leather treated with silver nitrate. In 1816, Joseph Nicephore Niepce, a French inventor who was the first to make a permanent photographic image. He combined the camera obscura with photosensitive paper. 1826. Joseph Nicephore's heliograph. In 1834, William Henry Fox Talbot. He was known for his calotype, or the permanent negative. Using paper soaked in silver chloride and fixed with salt solution, Talbot created positive images by contact printing into another sheet of paper. Louis-Jacques Mandé Daguerre. He created the daguerreotype. It was the first commercially successful photographic process in the history of photography. It is named after the inventor, Louis-Jacques Mandé Daguerre. Each daguerreotype is a unique image on a silvered copper plate. He sold the process to the government, making it available for all. In 1840, that's Talbot put in. In 1851, Frederick Scott Archer, a sculptor in London, improves photographic resolution by spreading a mixture of collodion and chemicals on sheets of glass. Wet plate collodion photography was much cheaper than the daguerreotypes. The negative positive process permitted unlimited reproductions, and the process was published but not patented. In 1853, Nadar opens his first portrait studio in Paris. In the same year, André Adolphe Eugène Desderies opens a photography in Paris, leading to worldwide boom in portrait studios for the next decade. With his Carte de visite. In the US, the ambrotype and the tintype became popular in 1855 until 1857. In 1861, James Clerk Maxwell, a Scottish mathematician and physicist, demonstrates a color photography system involving three black and white photographs, each taken through a red, green, and blue filter. The photos were turned into lantern slides and projected in registration with the same color filters. This is the color separation method. Matthew Brady and staff covers the American Civil War, exposing 7,000 negatives. Here are the samples. In 1868, Louis Ducos du Hauron, a French physicist and an inventor, published a book proposing a variety of methods for color photography, La Photographie. Photographs by Timothy L. Sullivan and William Henry Jackson in 1870. (1871) Richard Leach Maddox, an English doctor, proposes the use of an emulsion of gelatin and silver bromide on a glass plate. It is called the dry plate. The gelatin or dry plate involved the coating of glass photographic plates with a light-sensitive gelatin emulsion and allowing them to dry prior to the use. The gelatin dry plate process technique was developed and eventually led to the roll film process. 1877 Edward Muybridge. He was born in England as Edward Muggeridge. Settles do a horse four hooves ever leave the ground at once, bet among rich San Franciscans by time sequence photography of Leland Stanford's horse. 1880 George Eastman. At age 24, he sets up the Eastman Dry Plate Company in Rochester, New York. First half-tone photographs appears in a daily newspaper, the New York Graphic. George Eastman invented the Kodak camera, helping make photography accessible to the public. His company remains one of the largest in the industry. In 1888, the first Kodak camera was created. In the same year, in 1890, How the Other Half Lives by Jacob Riis was published. The Kodak Brownie in 1900. The introduction of the camera Kodak Brownie box. In 1906, J.P. Morgan and Edward Curtis. The documentation of the North American Indians. 1907, the Lumiere brothers presented their research into color photography to the Académie des Sciences in 1904. The commercial manufacture of autochrome plates began in 1907, and the first public demonstration of the autochrome process took place on June 10, 1907, at the offices of the French newspaper L'Illustration. In 1909, Louis Hine hired by the U.S. National Child Labor Committee to photograph children working in mills. 1914, Oscar Barnack created the first Barnack camera. In 1917, Nippon Kogaku, which will become the Nikon, established in Tokyo. In 1921, Man Ray begins making photograms. 1924, Leeds, a microscope company, markets a derivative of Barnack's camera commercially as the Leica, the first high-quality 35mm camera. 1925, André Kurtz moves from his native Hungary to Paris, where he begins an 11-year project photographing street life. 1928, Albert Patch publishes The World is Beautiful. The same person who invented strobe photography. In 1932, inception of the Technicolor for movies, where 3 black and white negatives were made, and the same camera under different filters. And here are other events. And by the way, on March 14, George Eastman, at the age of 77, he writes a suicide note, "My work is done, by wait," and then he shoots himself. 1933, Brassai publishes Paris de Nuit, or Paris by Night. In 1934, Fuji Photo Film was founded. 1935, Roy Stryker and Roman Vishniak began their work. 1936, the Kodachrome was invented. During the World War II, here are some progress in the camera history. In the year 1990, Adobe Photoshop was released. And some more progress. The first camera phone was introduced in the year 2000. And here are the modern cameras we have today. That's all. Thank you very much.